Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Nina and Greg. Thank you to John Fahey, who wrote a very kind foreword for me. He's the president and CEO of the National Geographic Society. And there are so many people to thank, from the drivers that I work with in the field to the incredible National Geographic Society editors sitting in this audience, and designers and publicity people, NG Live, and the website. So many great people. They're just the best. This is a memoir of 17 years in the Muslim world, a world which has become part of my life, marked by enduring friendships and indelible memories. And I kept being drawn back, no matter where I was in the world, no matter where I was working, I kept being drawn back to the Muslim world. Now, the book is not a retrospective, but one path followed within many paths in my career. It also covers what it's like to be a woman in my profession and in these regions. And I think as a woman, I have a lot in common with working women everywhere. Most of the pictures in the book were shot for National Geographic magazine, Time magazine, and the New York Times magazine. And this book is not meant to represent all Muslims everywhere. I'm not an expert on Islam, and it's just what I saw and experienced during my travels in these places. So here I hope to share a wider view of a group of people much misunderstood, especially since 9/11. But my interest in these places started well before, during my first trip to the Middle East in 1988. I was raised, as Nina said, I was raised in a showbiz family in Manhattan and Malibu, California. And it was an exciting life full of cutting-edge artistic culture and a lot of freedom, so much more. And I left that life to be engaged in what's happening in the world, and to travel far and deeply as a photojournalist. So, okay, well, let me take you on this journey. I lived in Gaza for about 2 years. I covered the first Palestinian Intifada for 7 years. And I'm just scouting for pictures here in the rain, in the winter. It's quite lonely living in Gaza sometimes. This is a contact sheet from a graveyard in Somalia. Time magazine had me there for a little over 5 months in the Horn of Africa, Somalia and the Sudan. This is a boy from that graveyard. This is just outside Ayatollah Khomeini's home in Tehran in 1989, just after he died. And I have relatives in Iran, but I couldn't look them up. I was forbidden by my family in New York, actually, to look them up because it would have been dangerous for them at that time. And I traveled widely in Saddam's Iraq. It was a fear-soaked universe with informants everywhere. And this is a double exposure from Iraq. This is a Catholic church and a Muslim family at the end of the day, relaxing. This is Nablus in the West Bank, one of the main towns in the West Bank, Palestinian territories. And it's a daytime curfew. This man is in a makeshift wheelchair. This is Savannah, Georgia, and this is a hate crime, post 9/11 hate crime. And this family is standing in the ruins of their mosque. This is just south of San Francisco, and it's Ashura, which is commemorating Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, who was killed in the 7th century, martyred. And this is my father, Aram Avakian. He taught me so much. He was a movie director and a film editor. And here he's directing a movie with James Mason and John Gielgud in England. And actually, James Mason took this picture. This is my family, part of my family in Iran. They're Christians, they're Armenians, but you can see the women are wearing hijab. They're wearing covering, and it wasn't only Muslim women who wore this kind of covering at that time. This is my great-grandfather's funeral, Garoped Avakian, and they were they were a leading family in the region. They escaped many, many things, like the Armenian genocide. They escaped cholera epidemic. My grandmother's family escaped, well, only she escaped Stalin's Great Terror. They were from Tbilisi, Georgia. And wanting to know what they lived through helped drive me to cover Civil War, famine, and revolution in my career. And this is Mount Ararat, which is a Christian holy mountain. It's where the Bible says that Noah's Ark rested. It's in Turkey. And this is from a mass grave in Syria, when Syria was under Ottoman, was part of the Ottoman Empire. And over 1 million Armenians were killed, and this is a mass grave that I found. It was a very difficult trip, really only a few days where I had to get in and out. And there were many, many Muslims, Kurdish and Syrian, who helped to save Armenian orphans at that time. My uncle was actually marched into the Syrian desert at the age of 4 and survived. My Uncle Roy. And I was based in Moscow for 2 years. I was covering, for 4 years, for Time magazine, I covered Glasnost, Perestroika, and the end of the Soviet Union, and also in other parts of Eastern Europe, and Berlin Wall and so forth. And while based in Moscow, I covered several civil wars and uprisings in the Soviet republics, from the Baltic Sea to the Chinese border. And this is a family grieving during the war between Muslim Azeris and Christian Armenians over Nagorno-Karabakh. But religion didn't have much to do with the conflict. Decades of communism had kept ethnic rivalries at bay, and these things came to the fore in the late 80s and early 90s. So I covered this war in 5 trips. I was in Tajikistan, in Soviet Tajikistan. This is Dushanbe. And I was there for a story, a deep, wide story on the Central Asian Soviet republics, and I arrived, and I found myself in the middle of the first riots against Soviet rule, Soviet power, and they then, snowballed over the years into a war, eventually. And this is how we had to travel in Somalia. With bodyguards. This picture was taken by my friend Alfred Yagopzadeh, and these are my bodyguards in Somalia. So the Palestinians, I spent 7 years in and out of the Palestinian territories. And as I said, lived in Gaza. This is Fatima Al-Abed, and she shares a room, she sleeps in a room with, she did at that time, with 7 siblings in Shati camp, also known as beach camp. And this is a Palestinian farm that was burned by Israeli settlers at dawn, and this was just the kind of thing that I used to get a call at, dawn and just jump in my car and go. Gaza Strip. And these are Bedouin camel herders. I mean, they're the children of, in the Gaza Strip.